Hey up. Sticking with the 90s this episode, we're taking a look at Hellinger. This is a 1997 horror film directed by Massimiliano Cerchi, probably butchered that, who looks like he mostly just directs this sort of straight-to-video horror trash with films such as Satan Claws and Hellbillies. The film stars a bunch of unknowns, and it looks for the most part like this is either their only film or one of their very early film roles. There's not much information about this online either, and the few reviews that I have read aren't looking great. I mean, this is clearly a Hellraiser knockoff as well. It's blatantly obvious, but weirdly, this isn't the only Hellraiser knockoff in the Hard Gore collection. We have another one coming up much later on. But anyway, let's just get started with this one, shall we?
Do you really believe what you're telling me? Do you?
Dad, please, you're hurting me.
You're a little witch, aren't you? Ever since she left, you've been teasing me.
Go back to the hell, motherfucker!
The plot follows Melissa, who as a young girl sees her dad get taken away by the evil soul-stealing demon Hellinger. Years later, she's an adult, and she's still seeing Hellinger slinking around in the shadows, tormenting her. Seems like he could potentially also be killing some people in her city as well. So it's up to her martial arts cousin to try and figure out what the hell's going on and stop Hellinger before he takes Melissa away. For the most part, this film is pretty dull. It's very low budget and spends a lot of its 74-minute runtime just sitting in rooms explaining things as opposed to showing us. Now, there are the odd scene here and there that do really pick up the pace and are quite entertaining, but they're too few and far between to make any difference to this being worthwhile.
Respect on the street, not the person. You ain't so fucking tough.
The acting, as you could probably guess, is awful. No one's convincing and everyone's just sort of flat and lifeless, as if the script's dangled in front of the face for the whole time. The same with the characters, really. They're all very one-note and flat and dull. And then we get some big over-the-top stereotypes for the big characters, but they're in and out of it that quickly that they don't really leave much of an impact. The gore is minimal and very cheap. A lot of static gore, which is always a shame. There's nothing really showcasing any fun gore or anything until like the very last bit, where there's a fun little bit there, but again, it's nothing worth watching the film for, really. And there's also a bit of nudity in this as well, and for the most part it's just a bit uncomfortable and awkward, really. Especially one scene where it's a sex scene and the music just hard cuts and the visuals keep going. Really weird to watch, really uncomfortable. I don't know why they edited it that way. The music's not great either. It's sort of a stock royalty-free sort of music, and it's very, very badly mixed. One example that really sticks in my mind is the shot of loud outside noises mixed with dialogue that's really quiet, also mixed with really loudly put in music, and you just can't tell what the hell's going off. It's just like audio sludge, basically. Now, technically this isn't millennial trash because it was made in the late 90s, but this has definitely got elements of being a precursor to that sort of film. You know, there's things like the weird editing, the music choices, the cheap gore, the characters, the acting, the angst that's present. The only thing really is it's not shot on digital, I guess, and it's not quite as over the top as some of the millennial trash that we really feel like defines that sort of genre of film. But it wouldn't be completely out of place next to an El Chupacabra or a Hunting Humans, say.
This house right here behind us. Her name is Laura Ashton. She's been... Hey!
Pray for your sin, Hellinger is free!
You watch too many trauma films.
Oh, come on. Don't be such a tight ass. I'm only joking.
Right, let's talk about the man himself, the titular Hellinger. Every time this guy was on screen, I was taken aback. There's overacting and then there's overacting. The type where you can't quite believe what you're seeing. It's everything from the voice he's putting on to the weird pace that he delivers his lines. He always just appears awkwardly in the dark, slowly shouting his dialogue at people. It's unreal, completely bizarre. Now, for a long time I thought he was underused. Then, towards the back end of the film, he has an over 6 minute long monologue, and I realised, no, actually, he's overused by this point. The less you see of him, the more mystique, the more funny his character is. So for the first hour especially, every time he showed up it was an absolute treat. Now clearly he is a Pinhead ripoff, minus the pins obviously. But he does a lot of the similar things to Pinhead, you know. He's the lord of this void, and he stands in this dark void with a load of chains, which Pinhead's been known to do. A blatant rip-off. There's also a scene where, I'm guessing they were trying to do that sort of sadomasochist sort of thing that Pinhead is. There's a scene where Hellinger just sort of rips a bit of skin off his face, and it's not really explained why he's doing it, but it made me laugh. I thought it was pretty weird and funny. Lastly, one more thing that I need to mention before we wrap this part up is that this film was produced by Lloyd Kaufman. For those who don't know, he's the head of Troma Films. Now, I looked online, tried to figure it out. It doesn't say anywhere that this is a Troma film specifically, so I don't know if it is classed as a Troma or if it's just produced by Lloyd Kaufman. Not sure. Either way though, one of the characters references Troma in this, and it feels very forced. I'm guessing it was probably done by Lloyd Kaufman? I don't know. I don't know what he's like. I don't know if he'd do that, but it's referenced in the film, which is weird.
Why are you crying, my darling one? You wanted him dead, didn't you? You still love me after all these years, don't you? I want to rip him out. Don't waste your tears, Melissa.
Okay, let's have a look at the print then. To look at, it doesn't look too bad. If you were to see a still of this, you'd think, oh, it's not awful for DVD. It's a little contrasty maybe when it gets to darker scenes, but the colours seem fine and it's relatively clear. The major issue is the amount of VHS tape flickering that occurs in this. It's constant throughout the whole film and it ramps up as it goes along. So to start off with, it's every 5-10 minutes or so, you know, it's spaced out. By the time you get to the end, it's every 20 seconds and the flickers get pretty big. And yeah, it cheapens the whole thing, and it's a shame because without these VHS flickers, it wouldn't be the worst by a long shot. But visually, it's not great. Neither is the audio though either. It's quite tinny and it's very badly mixed, as I said. So unfortunately, even though watching these clips you might be thinking, well, it's not too bad, unfortunately, watching the whole thing is not great at all. It's not a good print. And on the disc, bare minimum. We get chapter select and Hard Gore trailers. Right, time for the case then. The blurb gives a lot away, but it reads okay. Although don't think this needs an apostrophe. Also, the runtime is off by 15 minutes, which is really bad. One of the worst ones we've had in a while, to be honest. The picture on the front is kind of out of focus looking, and it is really playing into the Hellraiser knockoff angle. Pretty trashy. Even goes so far as to mention Hellraiser right on the front. No shame at all. Lastly, we have another Poundland leaflet in this one. Overall then, this is a very boring and cheap film with not much to offer outside of Hellinger himself, who has one of the most bizarre performances I've seen in a while, and he's pretty funny whenever he's on screen. Now this is not solo viewing, don't do what I did and sit and watch it on your own one afternoon. Drinks and friends though, this might actually be the perfect film for that sort of thing. There's plenty of funny moments to laugh at whenever Hellinger's on screen, and it's only 74 minutes long, so you could probably cram a few more films in the evening. If you are going to grab it, this version is not ideal. The print isn't great, there's no special features or anything like that. It's pretty bare bones and low quality. In the UK, there's a Shriek Collection DVD, and if you're willing to import, there's a US DVD as well. Chances are, though, those prints are identical to this one, so I can't really speak for them, so if you are going to get this, do not spend too much money on it, because it is not worth any money really. It's not worth a large amount. I'd chuck £1 at this. See extra charity shop, I'd chuck £1 at this, and you might have a good movie night with mates. So, really bad film, but with entertaining elements to it. Not good in any way, but you know, I laughed a fair bit. And next episode, we're moving out of the 90s and into the 80s. We're going back even further next episode to a film that I've heard mentioned before. It's been mentioned to me. Whether that's a good mention or a bad mention, I don't know. I'm thinking it's not going to be a good one though. Anyway, next episode we are checking out Creepozoids.